So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, regulators, and industry leaders, thank you for joining me today to discuss the challenging and opportunities navigating the global cybersecurity regulatory jungle. As we know, cybersecurity is a global problem. The cost of cybercrime in 2024 is estimated at 8.3 trillion euros, or about 9.5 trillion US dollars. That's the equivalent of being the third largest economy if you measured it as a country. As a result, many of the world's governments and regulators are working diligently to protect their citizens and critical infrastructure from cybercrime by requiring industries, developers, and operators to do more to secure the technology we use and depend on. The European Union is at the forefront of implementing new cyber regulations to combat this problem. The Cyber Resiliency Act, CRA, the Network and Information Security, or NIS2, and the Radio Equipment Directive, or RED, are just a few examples of the regulatory measures being rolled out across the EU. However, it isn't just the EU with new cyber regulations. Australia's Cybersecurity Act of 2024, the US has rolled out several laws, including the Executive Order 14028 in 2021 to improve the US's cybersecurity position. It included a NIST standard called NIST 800-218, which is Secure Software Development Framework, or SSDF. Add to this that every EU member state is creating their own version of the NIS2 directive, which is typically done in their native language and may not have a common language version such as English. All of these various regulations are designed to enhance the security and resilience of our digital infrastructure, but with new regulation comes new complexities and challenges of adoption. More variation is time-consuming, expensive, complex, and creates substantial delays in the real goal of helping the world to be more secure. The rapid pace of technology and advancement means that cyber threats are constantly evolving. As a result, regulators around the world are under immense pressure to keep up with these challenges and changes and ensure that their regulations are effective in mitigating these threats. However, the adoption of new regulations can be a daunting task for organizations, especially when they're already grappling with existing compliance requirements. Now, as we think about, there we go, one approach that large multinational companies can do to navigate this evolving landscape is to use the strictest requirements, or what we commonly call max case, from these evolving cybersecurity regulations to set a minimum security bar for all of their products. This ensures that no matter where the product or services are sold or delivered, those products are always secure. As regulations evolve, so do the minimums, so that they are never out of sync. This approach not only simplifies compliance process, but also enhances the overall quality, safety of those products. While this model can be expensive, it offers the most benefits to both customers and industry alike, since it ensures robust securities, even in countries where those laws may not exist. When you consider how many regulations and standards being evaluated and developed, this can be a pretty daunting task. It's also expensive, and it requires constant vigilance as the bar continues to move up. One of the ways regulators and standard bodies could reduce this impact significantly to industry would be to consider incorporating traceability into their work. Essentially, map new standards to existing frameworks and standards that already exist. As a simple example, every time a new cyber regulation or standard is developed, thousands of companies, including my own, all perform essentially the same work. Understand the scope and the objectives, perform traceability for the new standard or regulation to the standards we're already performing, identify matches and gaps, and address those gaps, and then, of course, update and maintain it as changes occur. Some of these steps are necessary for each company to do for themselves, for sure. But some of it could and should be done by the authors of these new materials, such as performing traceability to existing standards. This activity alone would save industry hundreds of thousands of hours of duplicative work and accelerate adoption. It would have the added benefit of not only being more efficient, but also help clarify what is needed to be secure. Leaving this work of traceability to every company to perform can be, of course, expensive and may not always be accurate as the offer intended. Keep in mind that many small to medium-sized companies do not have the resources to perform this work, which can limit their ability to compete in the global market or stay compliant in their local market. When standard bodies and regulators take on the responsibility to perform this traceability between the new and the existing, it simplifies for everyone what needs to be done, lowers the barrier of competition, and makes it easier for these small to medium-sized companies to compliant and stay compliant. Now, one such standard that has been leveraged this way is IEC ISA 62443 series, which provides a comprehensive framework for industrial automation and control systems security. By aligning relevant new regulations and standards with established standards like IEC ISA 62443, regulators can facilitate faster and more efficient adoption of cyber regulations for industrial systems. The IEC ISA 62443 series is particularly beneficial because it offers defined requirements for various stakeholders in the cybersecurity ecosystem, including software manufacturers, integrators, and owner-operators. This holistic approach to security allows for a much broader and holistic view on security that protects for the long term, not the short term. For software manufacturers, as an example, 62443 standards provide guidance for developing secure products. This can withstand the threats that we all face. This includes requirements for secure coding practices, vulnerability management, and product testing. By adhering to these standards, manufacturers can ensure that their products are robust, resilient against cyber threats. Now, from an integrator's perspective, they're responsible for assembling and configuring industrial control systems. The 62443 standards outline best practices for system integration, including security installation, configuration management, and, of course, systems testing. By following these guidance, integrators can ensure that the systems they build are secure and compliant with the regulatory requirements. And finally, owner-operators are tasked with maintaining and operating industrial control systems. The 62443 standards provide a framework for ongoing security management, including incident response, systems monitoring, and regular security assessments. By implementing these practices, owner-operators can ensure that their systems remain secure throughout their life cycle. Now, an additional advantage of leveraging existing standards like IEC ISA 62443 is that there are a ready-made community of experts, certifiers, and practitioners already supporting the standard and the industries that use them around the globe. This gives immediate benefit to those new industries who adopt these global standards. Given the cyber workforce challenges that are facing many countries, this seems like a high-value option that can make a real difference in accelerating adoption of good cybersecurity. Some of the new regulations being rolled out also expect third-party certifications to ensure compliance. Many of these cybersecurity frameworks struggle with enforcement because there's lack of a known certifier. Well, here again, existing 62443 have a robust global certification ecosystem already in place, along with widespread industry adoption and internationally recognized certifiers. If certain requirements demand third-party certifications, ISA 62443 can fulfill that role without needing to reinvent the wheel. So I've shared with you how a company can navigate these various standards, and we've discussed an example of existing standards that could be leveraged. Great. Are there any traceability examples of this or standards being incorporated into new regulations or standards? Well, the answer is yes, there sure is. The National Institute of Standards Technology, NIST, has demonstrated this effective traceability through NIST 800-218, the Secure Software Development Framework, or SSDF. This aligns very closely to key parts of IEC ISA 62443, and throughout 800-218, there are references to key existing standards as a way to meet those specific requirements. By NIST referencing and mapping standards rather than creating separate disconnected frameworks, they dramatically reduce the compliance cost while improving security outcomes. An important benefit of this reference being done by NIST is that it's both definitive and clear, simplifying expectations so that industry can quickly adopt and standardize on these different elements and also know exactly what are the differences they need to focus their attention on. Frankly, we need to do more of this across the globe. New regulations and standards so that everyone can benefit from this accelerated adoption of better security through traceability. Adding traceability, frankly, is going to be a tough putt because we're going to have to change the mindset at both the regulator and in the standards communities. But the benefits are clear: better security sooner. Ideally, as new regulations and standards are generated, the authors of these materials should look to the existing bodies of work already done and create traceability wherever possible to the existing pieces of work so these companies can effectively leverage the work that has already been accomplished, thereby reducing duplicative work across many different industries and companies. Just using the example of 62443 and NIST 800-218, industry and regulators save tens of thousands of hours of unnecessary, in many cases, duplicative work. Imagine if this was done with all new regulations and standards here in the EU. And now that would accelerate adoption and help all companies in the EU be more nimble, more secure, and better able to compete in the global economy. These are benefits I think we could all appreciate. So, in summary, new regulations and standards are coming from many different countries and standard bodies, including the EU. This is clearly driving more complexity and confusion, right? One way large multinationals like the one I work for work to address this is by using the strictest guidance from any one cyber regulation as a means of setting the minimum security requirements for all of their products. This way, the product can be compliant anywhere in the world. Yes, while expensive, it does ultimately result in the most secure solution for all. One other lever that can be used to reduce the complexity of this growing compliance jungle is leveraging existing standards like IEC ISA 62443 in any new standards or regulations by having the authors of these new standards and regulations embed the traceability from the inception. Doing this has many benefits, including faster adoption, and in the case of 62443, it has some added benefits as well. This is one of the only standards that contains specific requirements for developers, installers, and owner-operators. Most of the standards that are out there only speak to one of those elements. This is the only one that speaks to all three. Best of all, there's a ready-made organization and experts already out there to help support this standard, so you don't have to go create a new one for a new set of standards. I hope all of you will join me in this effort and choose harmonization over fragmentation, and that we work to incorporate activities like traceability into new guidance, and so that we can move together in a future where compliance is efficient, cybersecurity is strong, and resilience is built upon trusted global standards. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your conference.
Thank you very much. I think I got blinded by the lights and also dazzled by the presentation. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the regulatory thing is a jungle, and I believe that there are some people who know what to do, how to clean that jungle or cut or slash a path through it. They're women. And now I'm very pleased and very happy to announce a ladies panel. And what can ladies discuss if not navigating through all those thickets? These are really going to be difficult things, and we're going to listen to information on how to overcome implementation challenges that the regulations pose. Well, we shift towards something we can call definitely broader policy changes facing Europe's digital future. There is this ambitious regulatory agenda. All the regulators always believe we can be ambitious and set us very ambitious goals. And now that this agenda is taking shape, the real test lies in translating legislation into effective and coordinated action. We know that the more players, the harder it is to coordinate action. But what we have to do here is align national approaches to simplify all forms of compliance and foster collaboration. There is much at stake now, and there is much at stake at how we implement these frameworks. There is therefore a lot to be discussed, and I believe that the ladies who will in a moment take those chairs will be absolutely not only capable of doing that, but they will excel in it. And we have with us Christian Kirketjerp de Villon, Head of Unit for Cybersecurity and Digital Privacy, DG Connect, European Commission, Fedra Cluner, Deputy Director General, Centre for Cybersecurity, Belgium, Ingrida Taurina, Head of Policy Monitoring and Analysis Unit at ENISA, Katarzyna Prusak-Górniak, returning to the stage, Head of Digital Affairs Unit, Permanent Representation of Poland to the EU, and our host, Sylwia Czubkowska, a journalist. Let the panel begin. Ladies.
My dear panelists, it's really a pleasure to have you here in Krakow. And it's a pleasure. I hope it's going to be a little bit more crowded in a moment, because it's really, really not only interesting, but also a very important issue that we're going to discuss. Important for everybody, not only for policymakers, not only for authorities. It's very important for us as citizens. So come on, guys and girls. Keep up in here. Okay. You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in his mouth. This is the quote that comes from Winston Churchill's 1940 speech delivered after Prime Minister Chamberlain's resignation. Although, of course, those words refer to the policy, UK policy towards Hitler, but they still works quite perfectly to the metaphor of the cyber threat. Often it's really too late to negotiate or to respond to attack. That has already happened. So we need to be prepared, and to be prepared, we need to have some basic law rules, and well, we just need some regulations. So our panel is going to be about those regulations, but how to prepare really effective implementation of the regulations in EU. And yes, we've got really high-profile panelists. And let me start with the first warming up question. The question about the biggest challenges today when it comes to implementing EU cybersecurity regulations, but in practice. And maybe we can start with you, Christine. Everybody has a mic? Yes, everybody has a mic. Wonderful.
Now we all have mics. So thank you so much. So I think obviously there's a lot of different challenges when we're looking at implementing the rules that we've been producing on cybersecurity in the last couple of years. I think for me, the key challenge now is to really engage with the companies, to engage with the sectors, to make it simple, practical, easy to understand, and also easy to discuss, for instance, with your board members, those who are going to help you pay for the cybersecurity. So I think there's going to be a lot of work now going into translating what is a law, rules, regulations, into really practical things for our companies. So for me, that's really a big challenge, which I'm not necessarily the one doing. We have some excellent people over there doing it as well, but it's certainly something that we're also very happy to support them with.
So the biggest challenge, just to make it practical, just to make it understandable. Katarzyna, do you also see it as a main challenge, the biggest challenge?
So, for sure, the implementation is our common challenge. Well, we already established that FEDRA is here the only one in practice implementing this. We did our job when we were negotiating this in the Council, and now it's over to those at the national level. But, and of course, the issue is also that when it comes to NIS2, I already said it, we are with a directive. And we are also speaking a lot about the competitiveness. So we want our companies to grow. And in order for them to grow, they should have more or less the same legal surrounding in all 27. Whereas with a directive, it gets a little bit complicated because then there are national, you did it in a national way, you have some room for maneuver how to do it. That's why also during the Polish presidency, we spend a lot of time to make sure that there are good exchanges between member states. So we align ourselves also how we implement the NIS2. And moreover, there are the ongoing discussions on the simplification. What is very important, simplification, not deregulation. But I think Christiana will say more on that. And we also organized a couple of discussions, including a roundtable with the stakeholder, how we can simplify what we have there when it comes to cyber, and we got some interesting ideas that the summary was presented during the last Friday TT Council meeting. So when it comes to the cybersecurity, the challenges include overlapping incident reporting mechanisms, various risk management frameworks, demanding compliance processes concerning assessment and auditing, and challenges when it comes to supply chain. So there is a lot to do, but then we have mechanisms also to discuss this within 27.
But this lot of this sounds a little bit like new regulations.
No. I think it's very clear. We don't want new regulation.
No.
No.
I'm laughing because very often it's you know this glitch that we think that deregulation or simplification of regulations doesn't mean new law. It's very often connected. You need to have these rules, these basic rules, just to make it simpler. Ingrid, I'm sorry. Do you also see this simplification, process of simplification, as a main issue, the crucial issue right now?
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having us here at this all-female panel.
I think it's wonderful that there are 5 women who are speaking about cybersecurity.
It's fantastic experience already for me because these ladies are superpowers, so I'm very honored to be among them. I also want to say big compliments to the Polish presidency, which is almost over there, but the biggest milestone for me was to see the progress of the blueprint achievement last week at the Council of the Ministers. So well done, Katarzyna. Your team in the capital, your team in Brussels. So congratulations, super big fun. We actually have this discussion about challenges of various legal acts, and actually I would like to draw a puzzle with you together, if I can. So imagine as a children, we love to do puzzles, like, you know, jigsaw, trying to find the right piece in the right place, making a nice picture overall. So at ENISA, we last year published the report for cybersecurity in the state of cybersecurity in the Union. And in that report, we have a chapter on policy landscape. So, what is the number of legal acts that makes the puzzle of the policy landscape? I will save you trouble to answer this. 16.
6-0.
16. It's the direct.
It's better than 60.
Correct, but still, it's quite interesting piece of puzzle because it's keep developing, so to say.
Yes, so 16 with 27 countries.
These pieces of puzzle, exactly. So because of the national transposition at the end of the day, also makes this jigsaw piece find the right place for that, yes? That's the challenge ahead of us currently. But there is something else I would like to draw your attention. So the other number I would like to make a puzzle about, so imagine pieces of puzzle, so it's 249 pieces of puzzle. And what does this number represent? And this number represents a rows in Excel sheet, very practical. We are very practical people at the Agency of Cybersecurity. And this is the work we have done last year together, my colleagues and I. We did a literal scraping of all laws where our agency has been entrusted with a task. So 249 lines in Excel sheet with a task to the agency, ultimately to help each one of you, including the Commission services, including the member states, including stakeholders, managed service providers, critical sector entities, etc., with these pieces of puzzle to make sure that these 16 pieces of puzzle